Okay, so before we move on to chapter 3 and part 2, I just want to quickly revisit the themes that we've identified that were part of the first 2 chapters already. We did have a call to repentance. Now, it wasn't necessarily in the format that we'll see elsewhere, but clearly there is this call, this wooing, and a response that Israel, that Gomer, or the wife, makes to the husband when he begins to call out to her and woo her. She responds and is forgiven. So there's a call to repentance and a call to forgiveness. And the call to repentance is to embrace the ways of the husband. They don't really necessarily identify the remnant of Israel, except for that we know that those who will respond to him as a husband will be those who care, those who obey, the remnant of Israel, the church. So many different ways we can call it, but it's all of those who will respond to the husband. When that time comes, those who belong to the bride, those who belong to the church, those who belong to the remnant of Israel are the ones that will respond. Those, whether natural-born Israel or a Gentile, who will not respond, will not be spoken to in the ear of the Father and will not respond, will not be counted. They are not, whether you're natural Israel or not, if you're not responding to the Father, if you're not responding to Yahweh, you will not be counted, and you will not be called back into the land with all those promises. So we did have judgment, but not necessarily to the Gentile nations yet, but we do have judgment to Israel, that she's going to be judged. Everything is going to be removed. There's going to be a removal of the protection and the turning away and the things that he had given her. I don't know that they've said yet that there's going to be death and destruction that's going to follow her up in that land, but that's where it's culminated to, and the scattering. All of that culminates. It culminates to Israel, and they will be scattered and dispersed, considered captives wherever they're living. And it will include those of the northern kingdom that you would consider natural Israel who do not respond, and those who you would consider spiritual Israel or the remnant of Israel who do respond. But we have had conversations about the gathering back into the land, that wooing into the land, gathering from all. It didn't really say here that they're going to be gathered from the 4 corners of the world that they say elsewhere, but it's the same thing that we see in other passages and recognize it. So we know that we're gathered, that the church Israel is gathered from the 4 corners and delivered from captivity and returned to the restoration and prosperity that we just read in chapter 2, where we get, the beasts, and the Shemayim is going to give water, the earth's going to give the grain and all the prosperity that's going to come along with it, and is explained and shared in even greater detail, maybe even later in Hosea, but certainly in Jeremiah and Ezekiel. And there is this eternal life, time of a new covenant. He did mention the covenant. I know from all the various readings I've done that we're talking about this new covenant that comes about when we are raised from the dead and we receive those promises that were just made in Hosea. The dead are raised, the living are transformed, and we are transformed into our new resurrection bodies that will live forever and have a body that will follow Yahweh and his Torah. So as in the language of Hosea, that will follow the husband and his ways. We haven't really talked about Mount Zion or Jerusalem or Messiah in this context yet. Let's go and start. Let's go revisit Hosea chapter 3. Okay, Hosea chapter 3 verse 1. Then Yahushua said to me, Go again, love a woman loved by a friend, and an adulteress, according to the love of Yahweh for the children of Israel, though they are turning to other mighty ones and love their raisin cakes. So I bought her for myself for 15 pieces of silver and a lethek of barley. And I said to her, You are to remain with me many days. You are not to whore, nor become any man's, so I shall also be towards you. For many days the children of Israel are to remain without sovereign, and without prince, and without slaughtering, and without pillar, and without shoulder garment or house idols. Afterward, the children of Israel shall return and seek Yahweh their Elohim, and David their sovereign, and revere Yahweh and his goodness in the latter days. In the latter days. Okay, so let's look at this. Go again and love a woman loved by a friend. Is that Gomer? I'm not sure. Go again and love a woman loved by a friend. Not sure what they mean right there. And an adulteress according to the love of Yahweh for the children of Israel. Okay, so I'm not really sure what he's saying. Then Yahweh said to me, go again, love a woman loved by a friend and an adulteress according to the love of Yahweh to the children of Israel, though they are turning to other mighty ones and love their raisin cakes. Well, I think that's a little difficult. Maybe other translations would make that a little more understandable. But what I glean from that is Israel is still and is turning to other mighty ones and loving the benefits of whatever they're offering them. Okay, so that I bought her. So then Hosea went out and bought her for myself for 15 pieces of silver and a lethek of barley. So he bought her for something. What I'm not sure what that represents or means. And I said to her, you are to remain with me many days. You are not to whore nor become any man's, and so I shall also be towards you. For many days the children of Israel are to remain without sovereign. Okay, so it is possible, I wonder, let me think about this for just a quick second. You are to remain with me many days. You are not to whore nor to become any man. So I'm wondering if this potentially has to do with a season of time later that we're getting ready to see them speak of here in Hosea. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and I'm not really going to try to answer for that. But I can answer for this in verse 4. For many days the children of Israel are to remain without sovereign and without prince. What does this mean? They're going to be judged. They're going to be carried off. And for many days, that's a long time. And that's what it's been. It's been, if that was 722 BC, that's like almost 3,000 years ago. That's 2,750 years ago that this happened. And so at least that many days so far that Israel has remained without a sovereign, no leader, and without a prince, no leader, and without slaughtering. So they're not operating in the Torah without pillar, and I'm not sure what they mean by pillar, but I'm sure it has to do with the pillar in the inside the tabernacle and the temple, and without shoulder garment or house idols. I'm not really sure what they mean by house idols. But what I do know is that many years Israel will be without this sovereign and without a prince and without slaughtering. And I'm not sure what they mean by without pillar and without shoulder garment, but all of this could be representative of this time that we're in, that even though there are amongst the Gentiles, Israel, who are the remnant of Israel, would be considered the chosen, but they are without sovereign, without prince, except to the extent that they're receiving Messiah, but they still don't have, as the nation of Israel, they have no sovereign, no king, and no prince, like they will have at that second coming when Yahushua comes that second time. But here's the promise of the second coming. Afterward, the children of Israel shall return. This is the restoration. Afterward, after this many days, the children of Israel shall return and seek Yahweh their Elohim and David their sovereign. This is earlier I mentioned that they would call their leader David, and they do it in Ezekiel. They do it here. So they will seek Yahweh their Elohim, having returned. At the time of the return, they will seek Yahweh their Elohim and David their sovereign, and revere Yahweh and His goodness. And this all takes place in the latter days. So we know this is a latter day, this time happening. So many days Israel is out and about in the world, scattered amongst the Gentiles, without leader, without sovereign, but they are coming back. They are coming back at the promised restoration, the rapture, and will seek Yahweh their Elohim and David their sovereign, which is their Messiah, their King, Yahushua, and revere Yahweh and His goodness in the latter days. All right, let's move on to chapter 4. Hear the word of Yahweh, you children of Israel, for Yahweh has a case against the inhabitants of the land, for there is no truth or kindness or knowledge of Elohim in the land. And this is true. They had fallen so far that they didn't have their priests anymore. I mean, priests were kicked out immediately. So there was just almost everything in the northern kingdom was full of Baals. That's why when was it Ahab in the time of who is it? It was Ahab in the time of Elijah, that they had Baals instead of priests. I mean, priests to Baal rather than priests to Yahweh in the land, because that's just how bad they had turned. Swearing and lying and murdering and stealing and committing adultery have increased, and bloodshed follows bloodshed. Therefore the land mourns, and everyone living there languishes. And the beasts of the field and the birds of the Shemaim and the fish of the sea are taken away. However, let no one strive or reprove another, for your people are like those striving with a Kohen, which is a priest. And you stumble in the day, and the Nabi shall also stumble with you in the night, and I shall make your mother perish. So here they are, in all of their sin and all of their problems. Ultimately, Israel is going to perish and be cast off. My people have perished for lack of knowledge. Now, this is a very common, this is shared over and over again in church circles in different places. My people have perished for lack of knowledge. And that's true. They have rejected knowledge. They are not receiving knowledge back in the day of Israel, but this is true today. People, even amongst the church, who think they have the doctrines of Elohim, they don't. They have the doctrines of church. And they will perish for lack of understanding and lack of knowledge. And this is, this was the position of Israel in that day, but this is the position of all men. If we do not pursue knowledge, we will perish for lack of it. If we reject knowledge, we will perish for lack of it. And he goes on to say, my people have perished for lack of knowledge, because you have rejected my knowledge, I reject you from being Kohen for me. So we will not be able to serve him if we reject knowledge, if we do not pursue knowledge, if we do not figure this out. And I realize not everybody's going to be gifted in the same manner, in the same way, with the same gifts. I get that, but we're all called to do what we can. To everyone, a certain talent is given, and we're supposed to do something with that talent. Whether your share is 1 talent or 10 talents, you're supposed to do something with it. Since you have forgotten the Torah of your Elohim, I also forget your children. Now, I will say that, it's clear Israel was supposed to do Torah. They weren't doing Torah then. They rejected Torah at the time. And because they rejected Torah, Yahweh also rejected them and their children. But I would say this is germane to today too. We should not forget the Torah. We should begin turning back to the Torah and looking at the Torah. Verse 7, as they were increased, so they sinned against me. My esteem they have changed into shame. They eat the sin of my people and lift up their desire to their wickedness. And it shall be like people like Kohen, and I shall punish them for their ways and reward them for their deeds. And they shall eat but not be satisfied. They shall whore but not increase, for they have stopped obeying Yahweh. And that's the essence. We should be obeying Yahweh so that we don't end up with all of these judgments and emptinesses. Whoring and wine and new wine enslave the heart. So all of our bad habits, all of our flesh will lead us into this and enslave our heart. Verse 12, my people ask from their wood, and their staff declares to them. For a spirit of whorings has led them astray, and they went whoring from under their Elohim. They slaughter on the mountaintops and burn incense on the hills, under oaks and poplars and terebinth, because its shade is good. Therefore your daughters commit whoring, and your brides commit adultery. Now these are all elements of religion. So people who are going about thinking they're doing things, and you'll see elsewhere, all throughout the writings, all throughout the scriptures, and all throughout the prophets, that they keep thinking that they're doing what Yahweh has commanded them to do, but they're not doing what Yahweh has commanded. They're doing what they have perceived would be good. Just like the church is doing today. They think these are the good things, but it's not what is taught. It is not what scriptures are teaching us to do. So all these things that these people are doing, they've fallen so far from knowledge that they mistake them as honoring Yahweh, when in fact they are abominations to Yahweh. Verse 14, I would not punish your daughters when they commit whoring, nor your brides when they commit adultery, for they go aside with whores, and offer with cult prostitutes. A people that do not understand are thrust down. Okay, though you are a whore, Israel, let not Yehudah become guilty. Okay, so we're differentiating from the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom here. Do not come up to Gilgal, nor go up to Bethawen, nor swear an oath, saying, as Yahweh lives. See, these are people who don't even know what they're talking about. They are ignorant. They are lost. And yet here they are still swearing oaths as though, as Yahweh lives, as though that would mean something. For Israel is stubborn, like a stubborn calf. Would Yahweh now feed them like a lamb in a broad place? Ephraim is joined to idols. Let him alone. Their drink is sour. They have whored continually. Her rulers wildly love shame. A wind has bound her up in its wings, and they are ashamed because of their slaughtering. So basically, all of their activities, all of these things are ultimately going to lead with, here, basically he's saying, this is the essence of it. Would he treat them as though they were a lamb when they're actually a stubborn calf, or are they going to receive the punishment for what they're doing up here? Okay, that wasn't stated very well, but I think you follow it. They're going to receive what they're asking for and what their knowledge has led them to. Chapter 5. Hear this, O Kohanim, or priests, and listen, O house of Yisrael. Give ear, O house of the sovereign, which is house of the king. For the judgment is for you. For the judgment is for you. For you have been a snare to Mitzpah, which is the... I'm sorry, I stepped away. I just wanted to look up Mitzpah. That should be right rulings or judgments. For you have, I believe, for the judgment is for you. For you have been a snare to right rulings, right judgments, right discernments, and a net spread on Tabor. And they have made a deep pit, and they have made deep the pit of Shittim, so that I reprove them all. I have known Ephraim, which is another word for Yisrael. It's another term. Oftentimes we will call Yisrael Ephraim because Ephraim was the dominant tribe in the land of Israel. I believe Ephraim is where the capital was of Samaria. Okay. I have known Ephraim, and Yisrael has not been hidden from. I have known Ephraim, and Yisrael has not been hidden from me. For now, O Ephraim, you have whored. Yisrael is defiled. Their deeds do not allow them to turn back to their Elohim. They've sinned so much that they can't even turn back to their Elohim. For the spirit of whoring is among them, and they do not know Yahweh. This is the essence. And the excellence of Yisrael shall witness to his face, and Yisrael and Ephraim stumble in their wickedness. Yehudah shall also stumble with them. So while they were promised a period of time, a little earlier in this prophecy, where they were going to receive compassion for a while, they ultimately will stumble as well, as they're saying. So basically, Yisrael, also called Ephraim, shall stumble in their wickedness, but Yehudah shall also stumble with them. So ultimately, Yehudah will join them in their stumbling. Verse 6, with their flocks and herds, they go to seek Yahweh, but do not find him. He has withdrawn from them. So they run off to him with their needs and their wants and maybe even their sacrifices, and they're seeking Yahweh, but they can't find him because he has withdrawn from them. They have acted treacherously against Yahweh, for they have brought forth strange children. Now a new month shall devour them with their portions. Blow the ram's horn in Gibeah, the trumpet in Ramah. Shout, O Bethawen, behind you, O Benjamin. Ephraim is laid waste in the day of rebuke. Among the tribes of Israel I shall make known what is certain. The chiefs of Yehudah shall be like those who remove a border, and on them I pour out my wrath like water. All judgment. Ephraim is opposed, crushed in judgment, because he walked after the command when it pleased him. So this is a problem. Ephraim is oppressed, crushed in judgment. Why? Because he walked after the command only when it pleased him, when he's supposed to be walking after it diligently. Verse 12, so I am to Ephraim like a moth, and to the house of Yehudah like rottenness. So here Yehudah is included in the judgment. When Ephraim saw his sickness and Yehudah saw his wound, then Ephraim went to Ashur and sent to sovereign Yarab. So they went to Assyria. But he is unable to heal you or to remove the wound from you. For I am like a lion to Ephraim, and like a young lion to the house of Yehudah. I myself tear them and go. I take them away, and there is no one to deliver. I shall go, I shall return to my place until they confess their guilt and seek my face in their distress, and in their distress diligently seek for me. Okay, so even though they turn to others and they turn away, they even seek assistance from Assyria, which, ultimately works against them because that's who ultimately conquers them. But basically, there's no reprise. They are being judged by Yahuwah. So, like, as he's saying here, just to reiterate it, he is being like a lion and a young lion to the house of Yehuda. He himself is going to judge them and tear them and take them away. And there's no one who can deliver from his hand. And this is the promise, though. I shall go, I shall return to my place, up to the heavenlies, so that we're not able to have that proximity to him like Israel should have had, like we will have, and like we'd like to have now, until they confess their guilt and seek my face in their distress, diligently seek me. So this is the promise of that returning. So in the end times and in the latter days, he's going to be separated from us until those end times when people begin to turn, when Israel begins to turn to him and to begin diligently seeking him, which I believe those times are upon us now. Chapter 6. Come and let us turn back to Yahweh, for he has torn, but he heals us. This is the promise as we are diligently seeking for him. He has stricken, but he binds us up. After 2 days he shall revive us. On the third day he shall raise us up, so that we live before him. Okay, that's always been interesting because many will say a day is as 1,000 years, 1,000 years as a day. I don't know if that's true in this context of this prophecy, but clearly after 2,000 years he shall revive us. We've had this 2,000 year plus. Actually, Israel has been gone for more than 2,000 years, 2,700 years, as we said. Yehuda, which is the southern kingdom, has been gone since 70 AD? So that's roughly 2 days. So we don't really know for sure what he's talking about. But in the context of this discussion, the idea is that after 2,000 years, he shall revive us. And on the third day, he shall rise us up. So after 2,000 years, once we enter that 3,000th year, then he shall raise us up so that we live before him. So this is the concept of this, is that in that last 1,000 years is when he shall raise us up. So the 2,000 years go by, we enter the third day, and as we enter that third day, or that last millennial period, that's when he raises us up. I've heard that teaching from this passage before. So let's go on to verse 3. So let us pursue to know Yahuwah. This is the call. As we are diligently searching for him, this is the cry. Let us know. Let us pursue to know. Let us pursue. Let us diligently search for him. Let's pursue to know Yahuwah. His going forth is as certain as the morning, and he comes to us like the rain, like the latter rain watering the earth. That's our hope. Ephraim, what would I do with you? Yehuda, what would I do with you? For your trustworthiness is like a morning cloud, and like the early dew, it goes away. So while he's been trustworthy, Yehuda and Ephraim have not been. Therefore I have hewn by the Nebiim, I have slain them by the words of my mouth, and my right rulings break forth as the light. For I delight in the kindness and not slaughter. For I delight in kindness and not slaughtering. So he wants us to act rightly and to do rightly. He's not that interested in the slaughtering of bulls. I mean, it's a necessary ingredient thanks to sin and thanks to this flesh period of time. But he would prefer that everybody act rightly and in the knowledge of Elohim more than burnt offering. So here it is again. Act rightly, know him rightly, do rightly. And he's more interested in that than he is any burnt offering we could ever offer him. A sin offering, a thank offering, any offering that is part of the times that we saw, when Israel would give slaughterings and offerings. But like Adam, they transgressed the covenant. There they acted treacherously against me. Gilead is a city of workers of wickedness, tracked up with blood. And as bands of robbers lie in wait for a man, so the company of Kohanim murder on the way to Shechem, and they shall have done wickedness. Shechem is in Israel. I have seen a horrible matter in the house of Israel. The whoring of Ephraim is there. Israel is defiled. Also, a harvest is appointed for you, O Yehuda, when I turn back the captivity of my people. So here's, we're talking about this turning up here, this turning and seeking for the knowledge and kindness and, pursuing to know him and diligently searching for him. All of that's happening. Then he goes back and he revisits how bad they've been. But then in this last passage, he also refers once again to this harvest that's appointed. This is the end time harvest. This is the expectation. This is the regathering. This is the restoration of Israel. This is the promise. This is the hope of Israel. This is the rapture that the church understands it to be. And what it does, Yehuda, what is Yahuwah referring to it as? Turning back of the captivity of my people, which is a returning. So what he's going to do, as we learn elsewhere, is he's going to gather the dead from Sheol and from the grave, and the living from wherever they are, from the four corners of the earth, as Yahushua would say in the Olivet Discourse. And all of them would be gathered back together, and that is the turning back of the captivity of my people, and that's the harvest. This is the gathering, the harvest, the gathering in. That's on a future appointed time for them, and that's also referred to as the captivity of my people. All right, let's see if we can get through 7, and then we'll end it here. Whenever, in this part here, whenever I would heal Israel, then the wickedness of Ephraim is uncovered. Whenever I would heal Israel, then the wickedness of Ephraim is uncovered, and the evil deeds of Shemaron, which Samaria. This is the capital of Israel. For they have wrought falsehood, and a thief comes in, and a band of robbers raids outside. And they do not say to their hearts that I remember all their evil. Now their own deeds have surrounded them, and they have been before me. Okay. So Israel's not even understanding and do not say in their hearts that Yahuwah will remember them. They act like they don't. That's what's happening today in our world today. We don't realize that Yahuwah is seeing and will remember all of the evil that we might do. And our deeds, just like their deeds were before, will be before him, just like their deeds were before him. With their evil, they make a sovereign glad, and rulers with their lies. Not our sovereign, not Yahushua. Some other ruler they might be making glad. Maybe the kings of Yehuda at the time, and that probably makes sense, because the rulers were leading them into this sin, into this. The rulers were part of this. All of them are adulterers, as an oven heated by a baker who ceases stirring the fire after kneading the dough until it's leavened. In the day of our sovereign, rulers became sick, inflamed with wine. He extended his hand with scoffers. In the day of our sovereign rulers became sick. So I think by the continuing with this wording, they must be talking about the sovereigns or the kings of Israel at that time. For they have drawn near, their heart is like an oven, while they lie in wait all night, and their baker sleeps. In the morning it burns like a flaming fire. All of them are as hot as an oven, and they consumed their rulers. And their sovereigns have fallen, not one among them calls on me. So none of the rulers of Israel. And that's what we understand. Israel had no good rulers, not the first one. From Jeroboam forward, every one of them turned away, got rid of the priests, and sought Baals and other Elohim. Ephraim mixes himself among the peoples. Ephraim has become a cake unturned, and that's true. They mixed with all the peoples around them, and their Elohims, their idols, their gods. Strangers have devoured his strength, Israel. Strangers have devoured the strength of Ephraim. But he does not even know it. Okay, let me reread that. Strangers have devoured his strength, but he does not know it. Gray hairs are also sprinkled on him, and he does not know it. And the excellency of Israel witnessed to his face, but they did not return to Yahuwah, their Elohim, nor did they seek him for all of this. Okay, so the excellency of Israel witnessed to his face. Not sure what he meant. I think what he's saying that they had the heritage of Israel, but the sovereigns and the people did not return to that wonderfulness, and they did not return to Yahweh their Elohim, nor did they seek him for all of this. And Ephraim has become a simple dove without heart. They have called on Mitzrayim. They have gone to Ashur. So they've called on Egypt, and they've gone to Assyria. They've turned elsewhere for their help. When they go, I spread my net over them. I bring them down like the birds of the Shemaim. I chastise them so their congregation hears. Woe to them, for they have strayed from me. Woe to them, for they have strayed from me. Destruction to them, because they have transgressed against me, and I myself have ransomed them. Yet they have spoken falsehoods against me, and did not cry out to me with their heart when they wailed upon their beds. For grain and new wine they assemble themselves, they turn away from me. And I instructed, I strengthened their arms, but they plot evil against me. They return, but not to the Most High. They have been like a slack bow, and their rulers fall by the sword for the cursings of their tongue. This is their scorn in the land of Mitzrayim. Okay, so let's quickly return to our theme of the prophets and just cover what we saw in chapters 3 through 7. Call to repentance, yeah, it's baked in there, I think. Identification of the remnant of Israel, maybe references to those who would respond and follow at different times. Judgment to the nations, not necessarily, but definitely judgment to Israel. Judgment and punishment for sin and idolatry, where he's removing his protection, going to he just said in the last chapter, going to destroy. And there's this I'm pretty confident that in those chapters we just read that we did see references to the idea of the removal. But we definitely saw a few references to the restoration where they're gathered back into the land for a second time. They don't say it's gathered from the four corners of the world, but we know from elsewhere that's what's going to happen because they're going to be scattered amongst the four corners of the world. They didn't really talk about in those chapters the restoration and prosperity of the land. But they did have some references to this end time covenant where people would be raised from the dead and living forever. Okay, so with that, we'll end part 2. Thank you.